Hello Geminites. Welcome to the Red.
What's going on, everybody? GemMint here, back again with another Omnibus review. I recently just got done with the new 52 Swamp Thing by Scott Snyder and Charles Soule. And of course, they had the big Rot World event to tie in with Jeff Lemire's Animal Man, which I'm a huge Jeff Lemire fan. I'm an Animal Man fan. Loved Grant Morrison's run, and I really like what they did with this. We're going to do a deep dive, thorough review, overhead shots, and at the end, I'm going to give you my final thoughts on Animal Man from the new 52, the Omnibus. Before we jump into it, I just want to remind you guys I'm going live on Whatnot this Wednesday, like I do every Wednesday, but it's the 420 show. We're doing 2 streams, 2 p.m. Pacific like always, but we're also going to go live a little bit later, 6 p.m. Pacific, to get that later crowd. 2 1-hour comic book auctions. Comics start at $1. They last for 30 seconds. We have a ton of fun. Make sure to download Whatnot using the link in the description. If you haven't already, it'll give you a $10 credit towards your first purchase. With that being said, let's jump into Animal Man. Alright guys, here's a closer look at the dust jacket for Animal Man by Jeff Lemire, joined by artist Travel Foreman, Steve Pugh, and Lovern Kinzierski. Alright, we got the spine here and the back, retailing $100, collects the Animal Man issues 0 through 29, plus the 2 annuals, then the Swamp Thing tie-ins, issues 12 and 17, and it's got a introduction by Jeff Lemire. The inside has this evolve or die, which is essentially a phrase within the Animal Man universe. He's a famous celebrity, and that's like he has a t-shirt brand and everything. And then a biography on the writer, Jeff Lemire. All right, we have the wraparound cover on the hardcover, pretty cool. Animal Man gets these Drax-like tattoos in this arc. So I just got done reading and reviewing the Swamp Thing New 52 Omnibus, and it has the whole Rot World event, which tied in with Animal Man. So the issues that cover that in this book were in Swamp Thing and vice versa. Unlike Swamp Thing, Animal Man does have a table of contents, which is extremely helpful. You get to see what issue you're on, what page it's on, which one's a Swamp Thing issue, which one's issue 0, because that wasn't until right here after issue 11. And it lets you know how many issues are for each arc, and that really helps me with reading this, because I'll just say, okay, let me knock out an arc or 2 and I'll follow along, and before you knew it, I read this book in like 2 days. So very helpful, the table of contents. The forward by Lemire was cool, getting an insight into the cartoonist's mind who became a writer for this issue, essentially having to write for other artists because he usually writes and illustrates. And then we're jumping into issue 1 here, so it's new 52. Buddy Baker is the Animal Man, and it's very much like a Swamp Thing story. He has an attachment to the red, which is the dimension of the living, of mammals, of life, and that's how he's able to tap into that. And I like how Lemire explains it, what they used to call the metaphoric field or sphere or whatever, and they kind of make it, you know, that was just a different name for it, and still, you know, paying homage and feeling like that DC Vertigo Grant Morrison Animal Man run. So here something's wrong with Animal Man. He's doing his regular thing as a hero. His eyes start bleeding. There's something wrong within the red. And like within Swamp Thing, it's the rot that's beginning to infect not only the red, but the green. The rot is the black, or the realm of the death and decay. So we get a lot of this kind of Rot World stuff is the bulk of this story. I want to say a little bit more than half of this omnibus. But the main heart and soul, even as Jeff Lemire described, is Maxine, Animal Man's daughter, who is the true avatar of the red. So Animal Man is essentially just a warrior of the red, just like you have warriors of the green, like Lady Weeds and things of that nature. So not necessarily avatars, beings that weren't reincarnated to live on Earth, but reincarnated to serve the red. Love that scene though, and love this scene how Maxine figures out her powers. They couldn't get family pets because Buddy can't be around pets too long. He'll start bonding with the animal. So she resurrected these animal corpses to have friends. So pretty cool to see her tap into her powers. And I love the family dynamic. That's what really, I think, differs from the Scott Snyder, Charles Soule Swamp Thing run. They really nail it. And Jeff Lemire always nails the family aspect, the children aspect, the stakes, the wife and the marriage aspect. And his wife, she's very unique, like the way that she looks and the way that she reacts. She's got her mother there, and that's where this feels like a Swamp Thing book, but it feels like very much a Jeff Lemire book. Like if you've read his stuff, you start to feel his style and his vibe, and it feels just like you're reading something else that he's written. All right, so a lot of the beginning of this is just leading up into the Rot, introducing the Rot, which we've seen also in the pages of Swamp Thing. We're familiarizing ourselves with the realm of the Red, and the art style even has very much a DC Vertigo vibe. And Lemire talks about that in the beginning, in that foreword, which was a great read too. Great covers as well of Animal Man, really looking animalistic and picking the powers of certain animals from the Red. Here's the totems of the Red. So we have the Parliament of the Green and the Parliament of the Rot. These are those totems for this realm, as we have the Rot beginning their invasion essentially on Earth. Now everyone is drawn to Maxine because she is, like, you know, next in line. She is the Avatar, not even next in line. Like, she's the only living Avatar. So she's always in danger, and her mother and grandmother really just want no part of this, and it takes them this whole arc, this whole, you know, run basically, to learn that they don't have a choice, that Maxine is the Avatar, they were chosen, and this is their life. Yeah, this was great stuff, man. This stuff with the cop or the detective, and almost has like a secret invasion type of vibe, the way that the Rot is able to infect people and pose as humans, at least for a little while, before they go all Akira and become all deformed, you know? But you get a lot of that sick, gruesome horror vibes, very similar to Swamp Thing. Even the art style, I mean, the way like Travel does the first few issues here, just to make sure that you're getting more than panels. Here we have one of the totems of the Red, who will be a companion to Maxine. I'm trying to remember its name. Socks. I think it's Socks. It has a name that you can't pronounce, but its pet name was Socks, so of course that's what Maxine rolled with. And Jeff Lemire does such a great job of writing this 4-year-old little girl. She seems older than 4 though, but you know, they kind of go out of the way to say she's a very smart 4-year-old. Gruesome stuff, almost something like you would see out of like Hellboy or something. I like how every issue shows the cover and then the black and white kind of sketch cover on the inside before jumping into the issue. This scene hits hard later on in the book, Animal Man flying with Maxine, because he has an older son, Cliff, which we'll throw back to that kind of a scene of flying with his kids and stuff. And Cliff now is almost like a punk kid with a mullet and a rat tail, like the bad kid from Terminator 2. Gruesome stuff here with the artwork, and Animal Man fighting against the Rot. And then we get into the first annual, which is called Tights, which is Animal Man as an actor in the comics. Buddy Barker plays this superhero named Tights. So this is part 1. I believe this is the first annual, and then part 2 is in the end of the omnibus. But if I recall, because I just got done reading issue 2, part 2 of this story, you know, he plays this guy who's this hero, but it's almost like the same scenario that he ends up in real life, where he's not with his family and he's not with his kid and everything. He's kind of just like this kick-ass type of hero, wannabe character that gets his ass kicked but goes viral and becomes famous because of it. It's pretty cool because it becomes important in the last arc here. I like the foreshadowing of Animal Girl. I mean, this is not an Animal Girl book. That doesn't really come up often, but Maxine is essentially, like I said, the Avatar of the Red here. Here goes Cliff. So you can see his kind of like badass persona, a little Bart Simpson in real life type of thing with the long hair, mullet and everything. He's kind of got a tough relationship with his dad, but it's bittersweet when we go to the end and we see Cliff as a younger child with a superhero dad that he was proud of, like this, you know? And then we go into Rot World here. So I believe he just gets a vision of it right here. And I understood Rot World a lot more after reading it, because I reread the Swamp Thing issues that I read in the last omnibus, plus the Animal Man issues, and how they were able to turn back time and everything. So when we get there, we'll see. But now, you know, they're on the run and they're getting attacked by the Rot, so they're starting to realize that they're never really going to be safe. So we have to fight here against the Rot. Love the artwork, love the action. Look at this, ripping these basically zombified wolves in half. Paneling is awesome here. This part was crazy too. So Maxine gets attacked and killed by the dogs. Actually, in this panel, it's a little bit off screen, but Maxine gets mauled by these wolves. She transfers her consciousness into another animal and then basically reforms her own body. So she does some kind of like high level avatar shit here in front of her family. She is acting like it's no big deal. So that was a pretty awesome scene. It was pretty important. Animal Man, his body gets taken over by the rot, so he is with the shepherd, who becomes a huge player later. And what's funny is it becomes very much a Jeff Lemire, like a Sweet Tooth type of book with all the animalistic stuff going on. How fitting, right? Jeff Lemire doing Animal Man, where he has that animal humanoid comic and now show with Sweet Tooth. So we have the shepherd here. I believe they're going through to the red here to see the totems, if I can recall. Here we have Animal Man's wife with the son Cliff. Constantine shows up, and this is where we start to intertwine with the Swamp Thing books, right? Because if we remember from Swamp Thing, he was told that it's going to take the power of both of them to take down the rot. Love the stuff here with Maxine, man. This is basically explaining to her the different realms. Socks is telling a story of the last time the rot tried to take over, because there's always been times where one realm tries to overpower the other, where an older avatar of the green saved an avatar of the red, showing his origin and the similarities to Alec Holland's origin of bursting into flames and becoming one with the green. Amazing artwork here with Orchid, and this is where we go to Constantine, and he's with Satana. This is kind of his crew that he's got lined up to go against the rot. Now, the issues with Swamp Thing, it made a lot more sense now, knowing who these characters are after reading this Omni. Here we have Buddy Baker visiting the totems of the red, and then telling him basically that his body has been infected by the rot, and that he's basically got, they can't transport him back there because of it. So they agreed to give him kind of an upgrade, to give him more of a tether to the red. He doesn't have a strong or as strong of a connection as Maxine will, because she's the avatar. But they give him a little makeover, get him out of the red. Now he's able to go attack the imposter who has his body right now and is about to have his family, right? Because here he has Cliffy, and now we have the confrontation. Animal Man taking on these beastly forms to fight the rot-infested old body of Buddy Baker. Then it jumps into the Zero issues. Now, during the New 52, all of the ongoing series had like a Zero issue, which was kind of like an origin story of sorts. Buddy doing this action movie with the just doing like a chicken robbery movie or whatever. And it's funny because we'll do Hollywood movie stuff with Buddy Baker later on, but it's basically showing how the Red chose him as not the avatar, but a warrior of the Red, because they knew his offspring would be the avatar, but they didn't want to explain all of the realm stuff to him, so they just fed him the alien story, the original origin that we got with the character back in the day. And that's how he accepted it, and then showing kind of how he got famous and popular and how he was a superhero when he first hit the scene. Which is funny because very much like the character he plays in Tights, it's kind of how he ends up at the end of this. This was another Swamp Thing Rot World tie-in. This is the prologue, which was a two-part series here of the Animal Man side of things. Basically him learning that he has to link up with Swamp Thing, who is with Abigail Arcane right now. All the mother-in-law stuff was super on point, man. Jeff Lemire did a great job of kind of incorporating that tension of her not being happy with the choices her daughters made in this crazy family that is going through all this nightmaric stuff. Now, as we've already seen this, so this is where Animal Man and Swamp Thing jump into the rot. They tether themselves via Swamp Thing's plant abilities so that he'll still have power. Animal Man is in there without power, and that's where they mess up. They go in the rot, and once Arcane severs the tether, they're able to go through the portal onto Earth, and that's where they take over, and that's how Rot World starts. Them going in there to try to confront Rot World at the source while it was weak was their undoing. So we saw all this stuff. If you guys saw my New 52 Swamp Thing review, they come back, which only felt like a matter of moments, has been a year. and everything has been destroyed. Poison Ivy's still alive, but most of the heroes have been infected by the rot, like Hawkman here. Then you have, like I said, Orchid was part of John Constantine's forces. They're with Beast Boy and Steel. The Baker family on the run still. They're still alive, though, after a year. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. No, they're not. This is, those scenes are before Rot World. So, yeah, it goes back and forth between the end of time, essentially, with Rot World winning and what happened to Maxine while Buddy was in the rot, kind of leading up to when he gets out and what happened to her. So here's a scene which is kind of like the snowball effect, right? Cliff getting infected with it, and then their mother, what's her first name? I forget. Her mother getting infected with the rot. And that's the bargaining chip that they're able to use in order to get Maxine to willingly give up her powers. So here we have End of the World stuff, big Jeff Lemire, Scott Snyder team up. They kind of throw in a little Gorilla Grodd story here in this like post-apocalyptic world, and introduces the Frankenstein stuff because, yeah, he becomes Green Lantern later on, and I think when he shows up in Swamp Thing, I'm like, what the hell who is that? So this is where we get the Frankenstein stuff. He's basically just one of the last survivors, and he ends up fighting to the end here. So this is basically how the rot gets Maxine to give up her powers. Essentially has her grandmother, mother, and brother killed, and she has to give her life for theirs. Yeah, here's where we find Green Lantern. So he shows up, Medfill, he shows up in the Swamp Thing run as well. So he's the Green Lantern that's still alive, and we learn that Oa basically sealed off Earth to stop the spread of the rot, and that's why we don't have other Green Lanterns helping out. And how the rot wins, you infect someone like the Flash, they're able to mow down people and infect them as well. You know, we're seeing those scenes play out again, Swamp Thing versus that Superman. Now there was this whole ploy here, this whole plan to basically get the essence of the green into this Batman explosive device, use Bane Venom to propel Swamp Thing to get it up in the air and to rain down the green and start to take power over the rot. I mean, that's essentially what they do in order to push Arcane back. And how they go back in time, essentially, is Arcane escapes back in time, because if he's the master of the realm of decay and rot, death is birth and rebirth and all this craziness, and the totems of the rot, who didn't agree with Arcane's plan, they're able to send Swamp Thing and Animal Man back to right before they jump into, or right before Maxine gives her powers up to the rot that caused all this to be able to happen. So here's the explosion in the sky, the green raining down, turning the tides for this war, and then here's that interaction with the Parliament of Decay. Awesome cover here too as well. We get some great Jay Lee art in this book also. So now they're able to go back to prevent Rot World from happening, to prevent the end of the world from happening. This is the epilogue issue here. He's in a mad dash race to prevent Maxine from giving up the powers of the Red to the bad guys. Maxine starts flexing her powers a little bit. She's crazy powerful. They peel back the layers of the Hunters to find out it's really just this project of them trying to tap into the Red. Now the only problem here is that we get a little William Arcane crossover action, and Cliff, Buddy Baker's son, Animal Man's son, he doesn't make it. He passes away here, and now we're post-Rot World. So we're in this world where Animal Man's son has died, and the paparazzi are all over him, and it gets really absurd. It's like, you know how it could be, like the paparazzi starts questioning whether it was all staged for his career and all this stuff. This funeral issue hits super hard. It actually causes him and his wife to split. Ellen is her name. I couldn't remember her name. So this is kind of where they split here. There's this whole thing where the paparazzi is asking, is the divorce a publicity stunt? He's been nominated for an award for the movie Tights. So it just gets really crazy about how, like, social media and how the media itself gets into his life. He tries to go yell at the totems of the Red. It's dope artwork here, right? Yeah, he gets pissed off the tabloids publishing pictures of his son. Little flashback here to some 4 years ago fighting this bio wolf creature. He gets this flashback and it's all about these spiders. That plays a big part at the end of here if we pay attention. You know they were setting something up, right? Because it's showing him having flashbacks with his son Cliff, flying him around. He gets called off on this spider thing and he finds this creature, the being of the red, who essentially feeds on leftover dreams. So this whole spider thing, an Animal Man kind of getting telepathically attacked. We find this creature who's basically just trying to feed her brood, her spawn, the dreams of humans, but she's not there to harm, so they kind of make this pact. So that was the whole point of this flashback, to go find this creature of the red, and it'll make sense later. But it was this whole backstory with Cliff while Ellen was pregnant with Maxine. Yeah, so he ends up going back to that creature now after his son has passed away. She feeds him one of his dreams, and you get a nice little moment there. Awesome Jay Lee cover here. Animal Man on the front with the Red Thunder as the character he plays in the movie behind him. So this is Tights Part 2. He ends up faking his own death and just sends his son the little care package to let him know he's still alive. Ends up fighting crime as a different hero. It was a cool little sub story. Buddy Baker, like I said, he was nominated for an Oscar or something like that, but his son just passed away. He doesn't really want anything to do with that. Meanwhile, Ellen has forbid Maxine to enter into the red or to do anything with her powers, so she's been sneaking off and doing them at night, visiting the red. Nice interactions with Maxine and the totems because she really is the boss. She's the avatar. And meanwhile, Buddy Barker, he decides to get back to work, get back to his roots, not get back to work as in movies, but start being a hero again, start being Animal Man again. And he finds like this laboratory where these weird people have all these dead animals. They've been experimenting, and we find out it's the organization who's trying to tap into the red. And look, he comes outside chasing this monster, and all the paparazzis, they're asking him like dumbass questions. And he's like, are you guys serious? Like, you guys are in real danger right now. Here we're learning how Maxine is actually forming the red with her imagination, not even knowing. While Animal Man's trying to track down this killer, this animal killer. He's got all these dumbass paparazzi all around him. Another sad thing, Maxine tries to basically recreate her brother's body like she recreated her own. Problem is they don't know where his soul is. It's somewhere in the red, ready to be reincarnated. This is funny. So Animal Man's being held hostage. They're stealing his blood. Paparazzi walk in, and like this is real like horror stuff going on. All right, then we get the Brother Blood arc. So this is basically a rogue totem of the Reds, chosen avatar, and a double cross from the totems, which leads to him taking over as the avatar of the red and cutting off Buddy Baker. Kind of like his Woodrue thing, the cedar. It's a swamp thing. See, he drinks the blood. He gets the tears and the tattoos like Animal Man. They're on this river, basically of Hades, trying to find her brother's soul. And they find him right as Brother Blood's taking over the red. And they have to retreat and go back and protect the totems, not knowing that they're already dead. Right here, and this is where we find that rogue totem who betrayed and backstabbed everybody. And it's funny how Maxine and the Shepherd, their story starts to feel very like Sweet Tooth-ish. This whole last arc last couple of arcs feels like that. Now we have this whole raining blood thing going on as the red is taking over Earth. So we were dealing with Rot World, now we have the red. Our own team in this book who's turned against everybody. It's cool though, we get to see the reunion of Buddy and Ellen as he gets out of nowhere transported, almost like Swamp Thing, to another planet, and we find out about this whole seed planet thing, which is cool. It's kind of like what's above the different realms of the red, green, and black and gray and all that stuff in the rhythm, right? So you have this seed planet, and you have this bridge walker, which is essentially like an avatar of the seed planet, which is kind of what it sounds like, right? It seeds planets. So you're creating planets that create these realms. And some planets have realms of the red and the green similar to Earth, and some don't. But essentially, the current bridge walker has chosen Buddy Baker to be their replacement. Now, at this moment, everything is not safe back at home, so he makes a deal that he will become the new Bridge Walker if he lets him go to save Maxine and his family. And as soon as that current Bridge Walker dies, he'll take his place, which is kind of sad because he never really tells his wife or family that he has that deal, although it's still looming over his head. Meanwhile, now this is Animal Man is able to pull the powers of animals from every planet. He almost became like the King in Black Animal Man version. So this is the big final battle between the Totem of the Red, Brother Blood, Animal Man, and Animal Girl, essentially Maxine. We got the death of the Shepherd, which is pretty emotional because we know how close he is with Maxine. And then it takes her to finally step up and use her powers to take down Brother Blood. Right, so at the end of the arc, as Ellen's telling Maxine, we'll never be apart, not ever again, looming is that Bridge Walker, like, you know, it could be tomorrow or next year. It ends with this final issue here. This is definitely Jeff Lemire art. And it basically ends with, which I didn't know if I really agreed with. I didn't really agree with a couple of things. First of all, you were able to literally go back in time to end Rot World, but you couldn't save your son's life or bring him back. And then here, Animal Man convinces the totems to make him the Avatar and leave Maxine out of it, basically depriving her of those powers. And here's Maxine telling her dad a bedtime story, which is kind of just recapping this whole run in almost like a children's storytelling novel type of thing. Now remember, at the end with that spider, what's interesting in it, and I guess the reason why they didn't bring Cliff back to life, is because he already went through that river of blood into the rib cage and was reincarnated as a spider here. So Animal Man knows that's his son's soul within that spider, which I guess is kind of sweet, a nice little ending or whatever. But dang, his son still did die. So the back of the omnibus, it has the bonus materials. These were connecting covers, which I thought was pretty cool with the Swamp Thing, Animal Man stuff. The making of Animal Man has a bunch of character design sketches. Again, this scene right here is like the definitive image of this run, I would say. You got Franken Lantern as he becomes the Green Lantern of Earth. Rock Queen Maxine. That's a 4-year-old girl, man. That's crazy. There was a scene between Cliffy and Zatanna where he was kind of like, I don't know, just being a punk-ass kid to her. The art of John Paul Leon. Yeah, because there was a few artists here. Timothy Green II, Albert Ponticelli, Jay Lee. This was that one cover. This is the sketch for cover 18. Awesome. Francis Portela art. Yeah, the storytelling stuff with Maxine was great, man. That stuff was really good. That's what really set this apart, I think, from Swamp Thing. And it felt very much like Swamp Thing. Let's get into my final thoughts on it now. You know what's funny about Animal Man, if you're not familiar with the character, you'll hear the name and the power set and you'll think this is some goofy, cheesy type of superhero. But with Morrison's run and Jeff Lemire's run, they don't follow that kind of superhero formula. They use it and they think, what would it be like in real life if you were like this D-list kind of superhero that people kind of made fun of your powers, you're a little bit of a washed up has-been. Yeah, you were cool in the past, but now it's kind of just goofy. And I really like the parallels with Swamp Thing. I mean, reading the foreword from Jeff Lemire, it makes sense. He was real close with Scott Snyder at the time, talking every day, working together on their runs that are setting off this new 52 thing, along with, of course, the flagship titles. And Animal Man very much feels like a Swamp Thing story, just replacing the swamp with animals and replacing the green with the red. But I do like how that's all tied together and making it one cohesive universe rather than what Animal Man was drawing his powers from before. I don't even remember the term, the metaphysical world or something. So I really dug it. I think I liked Charles Soule's story on Swamp Thing more than everything so far when I'm thinking about these new 52 runs that I've been recently reading. I did like Animal Man a lot. It felt like Swamp Thing, but Jeff Lemire has his ability to really connect to family, whether it's the husband and wife, the mother, father with the children kind of aspect. That hits harder for me as a father and everything, and as a husband. So I really do like that aspect. I love Jeff Lemire's writing. It felt like Jeff Lemire. You can tell it was him. And I really did dig this run, man. Let me know what you think about the Animal Man Omnibus by Jeff Lemire, if you've read it, if you haven't, if you read it in singles. And thanks for watching. Stay minty.
Fresh. Peace.